there, desert discoverers! Welcome back to Musicland Stories, the origin point for all music and adventure stories in the known universe, and some of the unknown ones. And we're here at the Musicland Concert Hall! Can you give me just a minute? Things are a mess around here since the song lines got jumbled. Song lines are the paths that all stories and songs flow along. But now that they're tied in knots, stories don't make any sense. And songs? Well, the minuet in G is currently in the sky with diamonds, and the cheeseburger in paradise is dancing in the street. If these song lines don't get straightened out soon, I'm going to go out of my head. Luckily, Jetta and Koa are on the case. They're tracing their songline to help straighten out all the garbled songlines in the world. Every time they solve a problem or help a new friend, they remember a little more of their song, and the songlines get a little less tangled. See, kids, when you do good things for others, good things happen for you, too. Jetta and Koa were riding on the back of Zinnia the camel, with Tremolo the thorny devil lizard perched on Jetta's shoulder as they stepped out of the portal. They were in a desert, but it was a very different one from the Australian desert they left. It was cooler, a bite of chill in the air. The rocky outcroppings that jutted out of the sand were more gray than the red and orange of home. And perched on one of those outcroppings was a huge brown steppe eagle. He was 3 feet tall, with beautiful brown feathers, jet black eyes, and a yellow beak that was the most brilliant colored thing Jetta or Koa could see. The surprising thing was that the eagle looked kinda sad. His head hung to the side like he'd just dropped his ice cream cone in the sand. And he didn't even look up when the 2 kids and a lizard stepped through the side of a rock on a camel's back. A surprise like that ought to get a reaction. I mean, I was there when Rachmaninoff came on stage with Run DMC, and I can tell you, people had some emotions. This bird? Bupkis. Koa hopped off Zinnia's back and slowly approached the eagle. One time in school, they had a visit from some birds of prey, and he knew he had to approach with caution. No sudden moves, and don't get yourself too close to those sharp beaks and talons. As he inched toward the eagle, it didn't look at him, or size him up as a potential tasty treat. It sighed the sad sigh of a heartbroken bird. "Is everything okay?" Koa asked. The eagle, whose name was Henley, explained why he was so down in the beak. Henley's favorite hobby was to soar above the steppes looking for small, munchable mammals and whistling a little tune. A harmless pursuit, unless you happen to be a small, munchable mammal. Yesterday, as he was flying, a weird feeling hit him, like a wave passing through the air. He got his bearings back and tried to get back to whistling his song. But his song was gone. Not just garbled, but absolutely absent. Then he saw it, like a big tangle of shining thread, toppling toward the earth. He dove to get it. Henley was a champion diver, but it was faster than he could track. It hit the ground and it shattered into 100 pieces. That wasn't even the worst part. Henley sighed his deepest sigh yet as he told them the true tragedy of his broken song. Before he could pick up the pieces, loads of lizards slithered out of the ground and stole all the pieces, sneaking back into the ground with them where Henley couldn't dig, peck, or chase them. Now he was a sad steppe eagle without a song, looted by lizards. Tremolo took offense at this. Lizards were not looters. Reptiles were respectable. You could always count on a cobra. It was easy to get along with a gecko. If what Henley was saying was true, these lizards were giving a whole class of creatures a bad name. Before anyone else could so much as blink, Tremolo declared that he was going to set this right and get Henley's song back from these layabout lizards. First, he needed a few details, starting with, where were they? Henley explained that the portal had split them out in the Registan Desert, in Afghanistan. That put them about 10,000 miles from home, as the eagle flies. This information made Koa pretty uncomfortable. He'd never been this far from home before, but he was keeping a brave face about it, for now. Tremolo continued with his questions. These lizards, were they big? About your size, Henley said. Colorful? Greenish-gray mostly, but with spots that were bright purple and brilliant blue. And did they burrow into the ground? Yes, Henley said, taking the shattered snippets of his song with them. Armed with this information, Tremolo consulted a sort of mental resource. The List and Lexicon of Lizards, a database of all lizard species that lizards keep in their heads. I know, it was news to me too. But if you're an insignificant iguana, you don't want to bother a boa constrictor or cross paths with a Komodo dragon. Knowing your fellow reptiles could save your life. Plugging in the available info into the List and Lexicon of Lizards, Tremolo determined that the culprits of this case were skinks. The name didn't make them sound great, like a combination of skunks and stinks. But Tremolo assured everyone that your average skink was no skunk. He was sure they could talk all this out. Now the problem was finding them, which was a serious problem. Skinks tended to burrow, which meant Henley wouldn't be able to find them from the air. Even Jeddah and Koa, who weren't that tall, had their eyes too far off the ground to spot a skink. Tremolo hopped off Jeddah's shoulder and scanned the dirt, skirting this way and that, searching for skinks. Jeddah watched him go, feeling a little useless with her eyeballs a whole 4 feet in the air. Then she saw something interesting. There in the sand was a handprint, the size of her hand. A few feet away, about as far as Jeddah could spread her arms, there was another. Jeddah and Koa had used a number of ways to navigate so far in their journey. They'd followed their song. They'd followed a star. They'd trusted a camel's memory. But they'd also followed their future footprints. Impressions in the sand that told Jeddah where her next step ought to be. And if she could follow a future footprint, why not a future handprint? Jeddah got down on all fours. She got as low as she could, spreading her arms wide until her hands found their way into the handprints, and her nose was almost tracing a trail in the sand. Koa thought maybe Jeddah had lost it, but he realized what she was up to. He hunkered down as well, and the two of them did their best lizard impressions, scuttling around low to the ground looking for skinks. This strange search went on for some time, while Henley the steppe eagle and Zinnia the camel chatted about their favorite Britpop bands, which was Oasis, naturally, and their favorite meal, which was dessert. After a while of skittering and scuttling on the sand, Koa picked up a trail. He'd been traveling with the lizard long enough to recognize the tiny star-shaped footprints they made. But the markings he found had one thing that was different. A squiggly line that ran between the footprints, right where a skink's tail might drag in the sand. "Skinks!" he shouted. Tremolo and Jeddah joined him as he sped faster and faster along the trail of the skinks. As they approached a large rock, He heard a strange sound, almost like a dance party, coming from underneath it. As he took one more step toward it, the sound silenced. Koa lifted up the rock, and sure enough, there was a whole gang of skinks underneath, with the broken pieces of Henley's song spread out on the ground in front of them. Tremolo, the only one who spoke universal lizard language, came rushing over to politely ask for them back. But before he could ask, Henley soared into the air above the skink burrow and bellowed,
"Give me back my song!"
It wasn't universal lizard language, but anybody could understand a few phrases in very angry eagle. The poor little skinks were terrified. They grabbed the tiny song fragments and were about to burrow even deeper into the ground when Koa stepped in between them and Henley and shouted, "Stop!" Amazingly, everyone did. With the song lines all jumbled, it was a relief to get a clear direction on anything. Or maybe Koa just sounded confident. Either way, everyone paused and took a deep breath. Koa turned to the skinks. He explained that the song they found on the ground, broken as it was, belonged to Henley, and that they should give it back. One of the skinks stood up on his back legs and explained that they always intended to give it back as soon as they were finished.
"Finish doing what?"
Henley demanded. He'd cooled off a bit, but he was still upset. The skink explained that for a long time, they'd hear Henley overhead, circling and singing the same old song. When his song came crashing down, they thought it was an opportunity to mix it up, to give him a brand new song to sing as he looked for crunchable creatures below. While one skink was talking, the others were busy rearranging the song fragments, moving this piece here and that piece there. When it was all laid out, they stood in a circle around it, proud of what they had created. Now, it is possible to see a song. That's what sheet music is, a song you can see. And if you know how to read music, and you have a particular kind of brain, you might be someone who can look at a piece of sheet music and hear that song in your head. But really, the way to experience music is to hear it. So the skinks tapped one end of the thread of the song, and they all got to hear the world premiere of Henley's song, the DJ Skinks remix. It was a bop, a jam, a downright desert banger. Henley bobbed his head and tapped his talons to the sick skink beat. When the song was over, the broken pieces welded themselves together into the new song. Henley picked one end up with his beat, and the thread glowed brightly before it disappeared in a flash of light. Henley's head was now bobbing, his talons tapping. The song was inside him. Henley thanked the skinks, who were happy to do it if it meant a new bop broadcast from the skies every day. They all agreed that every now and then, Henley would bring the song back to the skinks for a rockin' new remix. Henley turned to Koa.
"Thank you for finding them, and for making me pause long enough to talk it out. If there's ever anything I can do for you, let me know."
Koa mentioned that there was something. Henley took off, soaring across the sky over the steppes, and in practically no time at all, he spotted the next portal. Flying in low, slow circles, he led our friends to another archway of rocks set into the face of a cliff. That's my cue. The portal glowed, and my beautiful face emerged from the side of the cliff, followed by the rest of me. Jetta and Koa looked less shocked this time. They were getting the hang of this. I asked them how it was going and how much of their song line they'd straightened out. Jetta pulled out her mandiple and Koa took out his clapsticks, and they showed me exactly how far they'd come. It was great progress, but with a long way still to go. Koa asked if the song line connected all the world's deserts, and I had to tell him I didn't know. Portals work differently for me than they do for anyone else. The only way to find out was to take the next step, off the steps. Henley and the skinks wished them luck. If they ever ended up in the Gobi Desert, they should look up Henley's cousin Goldie. Once everyone said their goodbyes, Jetta, Koa, and their friends jumped through the portal and into their next adventure. Me? I went home to the Musicland concert hall. The songs around here are starting to sort themselves out. I can finally hear the difference between Lead Belly and Led Zeppelin again. There's a lot more to be done, but I know Jetta and Koa can do it. Till next time, Desert Discoverers, this is your conductor. Out! Musicland Stories is a collaboration between Starglow Media and Double Elvis. Executive producers from Double Elvis are Jake Brennan and Brady Sadler. Executive producers from Starglow Media are Jed Baker and Agarenish A. Palmer. This episode of Musicland Stories was written by Bob Kroll. Alessandro Santoro is our showrunner. Narration by me, Nikki Lynette. Original score by Scott Janovitz. An episode mix by Alessandro Santoro. Grown-ups, you can find more ad-free audio fun for the whole family by subscribing to Starglow Plus on Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts.